Good morning, everybody. Good day. I don't know where you are or what time it is, but there you go. Welcome to Bed Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, T. Today, I want to clarify some information that might be confusing at this point in the Dylan Rounds case. First, Box Elder Sheriff's Office, or BESO, which is the acronym, is the lead law enforcement agency on Dylan Rounds' case, and the FBI is sharing their resources to assist Box Elder. Box Elder Sheriff is Kevin Potter, and the lead detective on the case is Zachary Moore. I know this for sure because I called Box Elder Sheriff's Office this morning. I'm going to talk about several different topics in this video. Let's start with the 3 missing items from Dylan's farm. Those items would be his iPhone, his key fob for the red F-150 truck, and his .40 caliber pistol. I checked with a source close to the Rounds family to ask if they could tell me if any of these items were found. The source said only this: law enforcement has not stated that these items have been found. So that confirms to me that the stories people are telling are rumors and hearsay. The locals may or may not know stuff that we don't know, but the official stance is that law enforcement hasn't said anything. It's possible the family knows more and they just can't tell us because it might jeopardize the investigation. It's also possible that the locals do know this information and they're sharing it even if law enforcement doesn't want them to be sharing that information. In other news, a guy who called the Box Elder Sheriff's Office said that a detective there told him that Jim Brenner, Robert Aviles, and Chase Venstra are being kept in separate jails to keep them from talking to one another. And that information is correct because I checked the prisoner rosters at each jailhouse. And here's what I found. 59-year-old James Adrian Brenner was booked on July 5th, and he's hanging out at the Weber County Jail. 41-year-old Chase Venstra was booked on June 4th, and he's in the Davis County Jail. 38-year-old Robert L. Aviles is in the Elko County Jail. So it is true that they're not housed together and they're not in the same jail. Yesterday, a guy named Lance from Earthworm Entertainment found Jim Brenner's former residence, his burned out trailer. Now, a local told me that this incident occurred around 2 years ago from his recollection, and it happened in January or February. Per this person, Brenner's trailer is on the Montello side of the mountains. So clearly, locals around Montello and Lucin know where Jim Brenner's burned out trailer is. It was not a secret. The story goes that Brenner was headed to the police station to report a burglary at his trailer. Before he left, he brought gas cans into the trailer. But inside, the wood stove was burning wood, so it would appear that gas fumes met with the fire and the heat, and that caused the explosion. According to the local, it was a super windy day, and miraculously, a tree-lined hill next to the trailer about 50 yards away from it did not catch fire. This local believes he witnessed the explosion because he saw a huge fireball shoot up into the sky, and he called 911 to report it. It is believed that the FBI is currently getting a search warrant so they can search the burned out trailer and the property it's sitting on. Here's a terrible thought that I will admit passed through my brain. If Brenner is charged with playing a role in Dylan's disappearance and he's found guilty beyond all reasonable doubt by a jury of his peers, then I wish he would have been in that trailer 2 years ago when it exploded. I'm not an evil person, but that would have saved Dylan's life, maybe, if Brenner is indeed the guy. Sorry, but I choose a 19-year-old hardworking farmer, Dylan, who had no criminal history, over this serial offender with multiple felony convictions in his criminal history. The locals said that Brenner likely took the gas cans inside to keep other people from stealing them. Out there, it sounds like you need to have everything locked down, or others, like Chase Venstra, will show up in the night and take it, or even in the day. I wanted this person to do a live with me, but he or she doesn't want to get involved and said that his or her pistol is locked and loaded. It sounds like people out there in Lucin and Montello are on high alert after Dylan's disappearance, and they're not taking any chances. But it's also possible that they do this every day because there are a lot of shady people living in and around the area, and a lot of tweakers. I'm so curious to know if Jim Brenner's burned up trailer is within the 15.4-mile radius in which Dylan Rounds' iPhone last pinged on Saturday, May 28th at 2:41 p.m. I could be way off because I don't know the distance or acreage between the ping and Brenner's property, or if that land falls into that radius. Who knows? There is a rumor floating around, a rumor, not a fact, that Dylan's iPhone was found to have been near Brenner's phone for several hours on Saturday. Black Dove, a guy who you may or may not like or trust or believe in, and Doug of No Thanks Investigates said they both heard that rumor. That's total hearsay again. It could be completely untrue. And there's a possibility, too, that maybe Brenner was set up to look like the guilty party. Because again, why would he put Dylan's boots so close to his trailer and the grain shed? People have said Brenner's not too swift, but that would show a complete lack of intelligence, in my opinion. This Lance person found 2 shovels out near Brenner's burned out trailer, too, as well as a green bucket and what looks like a new lawnmower sitting on a wood pallet. It's possible that these items have nothing to do with Dylan's disappearance. Ty Corbin, another person who you may or may not have confidence in terms of if he's a believable, credible person, said the ground in Lucin would be very hard to manually shovel into. But remember, it was raining hard on Saturday and all day Sunday. Would that have made the ground softer? I'm just wondering. Could Brenner, if he did do this, have used those shovels to bury evidence near his burned out trailer? Would he leave them out in the desert like that for anyone to stumble upon? Did he think no one would ever be able to find that property? Also, whoever harmed Dylan, in my opinion, had several hours or more to hide the evidence. Technically, that person would have had all Saturday afternoon and evening, possibly even part of the morning, and all day Sunday, even if Jim Brenner attended a barbecue, as he said, at Don Hatley's house on Saturday afternoon. You can hide evidence and then deal with really hiding the evidence later, like on Sunday. This is me speculating. No one really knows except the perpetrator or perpetrators, and possibly law enforcement. Kurt Wadsworth has alleged that Jim Brenner told him he was at Don Hatley's house from 1 to 5 p.m. on Saturday when Dylan vanished. Kurt has also alleged that when he asked Don Hatley about this, Hatley said he was there from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. Clearly, someone is lying, or both are lying. It's also possible that Kurt Wadsworth made up that story. We don't know. It's all hearsay. I think it's important for us not to cozy up too much to the people surrounding the case who are talking about things. Once you develop a friendship with one of them, can you remain neutral? Salty Pancakes has said he loves Kurt Wadsworth. Can he look at Kurt now in a discerning manner if he's buddies with him and having beers with him at the Saddle Sore. Maybe. Maybe Salty's just trying to get close to Kurt to get him to trust him. Maybe Salty secretly hopes that Kurt will spill the beans if Kurt knows anything more about Dylan's disappearance. Now, Doug of No Thanks Investigates went off on this Gloria Dellen person of the YouTube channel Perplexed QY last night. Doug was upset that she made a video misrepresenting information based on information she received from one of the lawyers at the Salt Lake City federal courthouse after Chase Venstra's court hearing yesterday. This Gloria Dellen announced that Chase Venstra is no longer a person of interest in Dylan's disappearance, and she made it sound like Venstra might now be a material witness against Jim Brenner, meaning he may be flipped for a plea deal and is possibly ratting out Brenner. Here's the problem. Gloria Dellen did not record the conversation on tape or camera, and what she was sharing is hearsay. So we don't know if it's fact or fiction, and we don't know if she got confused by what the man said, if he said anything at all, and if she twisted the words when she shared it with the public. We don't want dangerous rumors like that floating around in the universe. Gloria Dellen, who says she's a paralegal, should know the rules about what you can say and what you can't say and how it's said and getting the receipts. But Doug was brutal to her. He let her have it, but she calmly took it. Later, Doug had a moment of regret about being so harsh to her, and he suddenly got all zen about it, and he apologized, and he said he's just tired over the case, upset that Dylan is still missing at 2 months out. And you know what? I feel the same way. It's exhausting trying to listen to all these interviews and try to sift through all the information and separate fact from fiction. And people like Jim Terry have a very loud voice, and they're very harsh with what they say, so it kind of gives you a headache and it's hard to listen to. And sometimes I wonder, though, if people like Doug, that they don't like other YouTubers who are maybe giving him a run for his money because maybe he wants to have all the subs to himself. Does he want a monopoly on the true crime audience? It's just a thought I had. I'm not accusing him, but he can sometimes say mean things about other creators. And Jim Terry has also made disparaging comments about other YouTubers. I think while he's some people's cup of tea, meaning Jim Terry, he does add value at times. I'm not saying that he doesn't, but he might not be everyone's cup of tea. And personally, I think there's room for everybody. The bashing of other YouTubers doesn't help Dylan Rounds' case unless someone is pointing out, as Doug did last night, that a creator misrepresented information, especially really important information. Moving on to the green quad, there's been a lot of talk about the lady in Pilot, Nevada, who hired Chase Venstra to work on her 2 quads, and then he stole them both from her. It's been said that one of the quads was not working, but the other one was. A large green quad is said to have been found out in the desert, either on or near Dylan's farm, in an area with trees. It's been said that this quad was sort of hidden in the trees. People are speculating that it might have been involved in Dylan's disappearance. Again, that's pure speculation. It's all hearsay. We don't know if that really happened. It's just from what people are picking up from locals who might have heard things. According to Ty Corbin, he's the guy who's been searching for Dylan Rounds, and he makes nightly appearances on No Thanks Investigates, and who is said to have been friends with Chase Venstra and with Robert Aviles' mother, Yvette. Corbin said that Robert Aviles told him that he drove Chase Venstra out to Lucin on the day Dylan disappeared. Aviles drove Venstra there, allegedly, in his mother's black Subaru. Aviles, allegedly, told Corbin that he dropped Venstra off near some trees either close to or on Dylan's farm. According to Corbin, Aviles said that green quad was there and Chase had to siphon gas from the Subaru to fuel the quad. Again, this is all hearsay, but it's out there. It sounds like a very detailed story, which makes me think there may be some grains of truth to it. The story is obviously making everyone wonder if Venstra is involved in Dylan's disappearance. And Venstra has been named a person of interest in the case, so it's a logical leap. If Jim Brenner, who law enforcement have named a suspect in Dylan's case, if he harmed Dylan, did he do it alone or did he have help? If he did have help, was it Chase Venstra, or is someone trying to frame Venstra too? Or was it Don Hatley? Or maybe both Hatley and Venstra? Could Hatley be involved in this case? He's done some very sus things, like safeguard Brenner's firearms and not fess up to police that he had them. The police had to go to Hatley for an interview, and that's a fact from the affidavit. Hatley didn't head over to the police station right away when Brenner brought those firearms over to his house for safekeeping and after Dylan disappeared. And even then, Hatley left out the .22 rifle that was part of Brenner's firearms stash. Hatley only fessed up to that in his second interview with police. That information is in the official affidavit for a search warrant for Brenner's trailer near the grain shed, so you can read it yourself. Now, if the story about Aviles dropping Venstra off in Lucin, if that story's true, I want to ask Ty Corbin now if Robert Aviles told him exactly when he dropped Venstra off there. Was it early in the morning on Saturday or later in the day? Remember, Dylan told his grandmother at 6:51 a.m. that he would call her after he stored the seed truck in the grain shed. I also want to ask Corbin if Aviles said if Venstra told him why he needed a ride out to Lucin that day. Venstra didn't seem to have any reason for being out in Lucin. He doesn't own property there, and I haven't heard anything about him doing farm work for farmers out there. Those are key questions for Corbin, in my opinion. I did a super chat last night on Doug's channel with those questions, but it was completely ignored. I didn't get a thank you. There was no acknowledgement of my super chat. Doug maybe doesn't say thanks if the super chat isn't for more than a certain amount of money. He also turned the chat to members only mode, which made me feel like he was forcing people who wanted to ask questions to become a member and pay a monthly fee. It didn't feel right to me, but maybe he does that when there are too many people in the chat and it gets crazy. But let's get back to Dylan and his connection to Chase Venstra. Now remember, Dylan is said to have given Venstra a ride on the Wednesday before he went missing. The story goes that Chase came stumbling out of the desert and Dylan agreed to drive him to where Venstra's father was going to be waiting to pick him up. I'm curious as to what Dylan said to Venstra during that truck ride and what Venstra said to him. Supposedly Dylan had never met Venstra before. Did Venstra ask Dylan all sorts of questions like, "Hey dude, what are you doing out here in Lucin?" And then maybe Dylan tells Venstra about his farm, his acreage, his lucrative custom farming work for other farmers and ranchers. I can see that conversation going down. Did that plant a seed in Venstra's mind? Or had Venstra already heard about this hard-working, money-earning young farmer out in Lucin? We know Venstra was a habitual thief. He has a criminal record that tells us so. I would think Dylan would have looked like tempting prey for Venstra. And if Venstra was on crystal meth or is a crystal meth addict, as has been alleged, would he be so sick from his addiction and his need for another hit to kill to get the money? It's been said addicts will do pretty much anything sometimes if they're desperate enough. I'm purely speculating here, but I think it's a possibility. Now, I want to touch on Jim Brenner's car. It's been said to be a lemon of a car that overheats after 20 minutes. Kurt Wadsworth said that he bought Jim Brenner a horse as an alternate mode of transportation. My thoughts on Brenner's car are that it may have been his Achilles heel. Let's say Brenner is the guy who made Dylan Rounds go missing. He couldn't have used his own car to hide the evidence, if you know what I mean, at least not if he needed to drive more than 20 minutes away. If Brenner turns out to be guilty, did he use either Dylan's C truck or Dylan's red F-150 truck to get rid of evidence? Or was someone else out in Lucin with a vehicle, maybe Robert Aviles or Chase Venstra, to assist Brenner? Or even Don Hatley? This is all speculation. I'm not accusing anyone. Aviles had access to that black Subaru, and Venstra allegedly had access to that quad. Questions. Just more questions. If they used Dylan's F-150 truck, is it possible that that truck got an additional power wash out at Dylan's farm that day by somebody other than Dylan? I know Dylan allegedly told Kurt Wadsworth and his daughter that he power washed his Ford truck, but maybe the truck got a second power wash. One thing about Jim Brenner that makes me question his guilt are Dylan's boots. Why would Brenner leave them so close to his own trailer? And if Brenner was so good at hiding Dylan, because it's been 2 months now, and no one has found him, why would Brenner carelessly throw Dylan's boots so close to home? That's damning evidence. Could someone be trying to set Brenner up? It's possible. But then again, law enforcement is calling Brenner a suspect, which leads me to think that they know something that we don't, and they think he's involved in Dylan's disappearance. And now let's move on to the topic of Chase Venstra's ex-girlfriend, Tracy, with whom he has a child. Tracy did an interview with Doug, and Ty Corbin, who Kurt Wadsworth clearly despises and says is playing a fake role here in the case, pretending he's a caring, compassionate searcher. And again, that's Kurt Wadsworth saying that. We don't know for sure if we can believe him. It's hearsay. Corbin definitely knows Chase Venstra. Corbin said that Chase's girlfriend Tracy was treated horribly by Chase, and the girlfriend confirmed that. She was living with that baby in a small cabin. Venstra was allegedly very controlling, and he would take her phone with him when he left the remote property, leaving her with no way to communicate with the outside world. Per Ty Corbin, Venstra even once pulled a gun on Tracy to make her leave a gathering with him. I'm not sure if that was a gathering at the Saddle Sore bar or a party, but he's still a habitual lawbreaker and overall troublemaker. Then I started wondering this. Did Chase Venstra have to detox from crystal meth inside his jail cell? He's allegedly a tweaker. I have a relative who was a heroin addict and committed some crimes and landed in jail while he was still doing heroin. And he had to detox in that jail cell without any help or assistance. They did not give him any medications. They did not assist him. I know he was a criminal, and a lot of people would say, well, who cares? Who cares about that guy who committed these crimes? That's just too bad for him. But maybe the care someone receives in a jail varies from jailhouse to jailhouse and state to state. And this has nothing to do with Dylan's case, so I will stop talking about it, but I was curious. So Chase Venstra was in a federal courtroom in Salt Lake City yesterday. Gloria Dellon said his family was not there to support him. Okay, well that's it for now. Until the next time on Bed Crime Stories. Now if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button.